dedicating this episode to diving into A Course in Miracles for the last 4 days. And since January 1 of the year, we have been diving into a daily lesson that A Course in Miracles offers in its workbook. And frankly, I decided to do this out of my own commitment to myself of doing this in a daily way. And it has been so helpful for me. So I did this for many days last year, but didn't continue. So this is my attempt at accountability by going live with you every single day. So I am going to read through the entire lesson. I'm going to include the word blank where there are blanks on the page, and then we'll contemplate together. As a reminder, lessons 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Lesson 1 says, nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window in this place means anything. Lesson number 2, I have given everything I see in this room, on the street, from this window in this place, all the meaning that it has for me. Lesson 3, I do not understand anything I see in this room, on the street, from this window in this place. Lesson 4, these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on the street, from this window in this place. Lesson 5, I am never upset for the reason I think. This idea, like the preceding one, can be used with any person, situation, or event you think is causing you pain. Apply it specifically to whatever you believe is the cause of your upset, using the description of the feeling in whatever term seems accurate to you. The upset may seem to be fear, worry, depression, anxiety, anger, hatred, jealousy, or any number of forms, all of which will be perceived as different. This is not true. However, until you learn that form does not matter, each form becomes a proper subject for the exercises up for the day. Applying the same idea for each of them separately is the first step to ultimately recognizing that they are all the same. When using the idea for today for a specific perceived cause of an upset in any form, use both the name of the form in which you see the upset and the cause which you ascribe to it. For example, I am angry at blank for the reason I think. I am not afraid of blank for the reason I think. So insert the emotion. But again, this should not be substituted for practice periods in which you first search your mind for sources of upset in which you believe and forms of upset which you think result. In these exercises, more than in the preceding ones, you may find it hard to be indiscriminate and to avoid giving greater weight to some subjects than to others. It might help to precede the exercises with the statement, there are no small upsets. They are all equally disturbing to my peace of mind. Then examine your mind for whatever is distressing you, regardless of how little or how much you think it is doing so. You may also find yourself less willing to apply today's idea to some perceived sources of upset than to others. If this occurs, think first of this. I cannot keep this form of upset and let the others go. For the purpose of these exercises, then, I will regard all of them the same. Then search your mind for no more than a minute or so and try to identify the number of different forms of upset that are disturbing you, regardless of the relative importance you may give them. Apply the idea for today to each of them, using the name of both the source of the upset as you perceive it and of the feeling as you experience it. Further examples are, I am not worried about blank for the reason I think. I am not depressed about blank for the reason I think. 3 or 4 times during the day is enough. So, y'all, this could not have come at a more timely moment for me. On YouTube, I just wanted to respond to one of the comments. I'm live in a couple different places, but I'm reading A Course in Miracles, and this is a book with a workbook associated. You can see it's quite large. So it's the text, the workbook, and then at the very, very back of this, I also have the manual for teachers, which I've never read. I'm not a teacher. But I'm reading lesson 5. They've got 365 days of lessons in the workbook. And this lesson number 5, I am not upset for the reason I think. This is so important because frankly, today I have felt upset. I'm kind of in the middle of a conflict moment with someone I love so much. And It's so interesting because when I say, following along with what she says, I'm never upset for the reason I think, and putting this into practice, whatever emotion I'm feeling right now, I am not feeling misunderstood for the reason I think. This is what's so this is what's so wild, y'all. Proceeding on the last couple of lessons, recognizing even just yesterday's lesson was so timely too. These thoughts do not mean anything. Being able to take our thoughts and almost like pull them out of our head and examine them. And there's a biblical scripture that says, take every thought captive. We are supposed to do that with our emotions too. Take every emotion, take it out and examine it, put it on the table. And why am I feeling this way? And it is so incredibly true that rarely are we ever feeling the way that we're feeling for the reason that we think we are. In fact, as I'm sitting here feeling misunderstood, I already found myself feeling misunderstood, and all the people that I've ever felt misunderstood by in the past are coming into the present moment. And that's the thing about kind of being able to have the power, which we're learning right now, having the power to disassociate ourself from an emotion, our self from a thought, and also and disassociate. It's more like divorcing. Like, I can examine the feeling, I can examine the thought and realize that's not who I am. Maybe I'm feeling that way, but that feeling is not me. That thought is not me. And I get to choose if that feeling or thought stays. I also get to identify that what I think is the reason, the source for feeling that way to begin with, probably isn't true. And then, man, once we start allowing ourselves to have the freedom to examine what we're thinking and feeling and just being curious about it, and not almost like removing an assigned reason, because once we assign a judgment, because that's ultimately what it is. When we think we know, we have assigned a judgment, and we're so inflexible to change. We talked about that yesterday night on the Knowing Show. So I'm going live earlier in the day talking about A Course in Miracles on a daily basis, and then also going live in the evening. Yesterday evening, we talked about the difference between truth versus experience. It is so, so important that once we start assigning a truth to ourself or someone else, it's really, really hard for us to then be open to something that counteracts that. So we really need to decide effectively, this is an experience. I'm experiencing an upset, and it's not for the reason that I think it is, according to today's lesson. I just saw you say in the chat, imagine you found your soulmate and you cannot confess your love to them. What would you do? You know what's interesting? I actually think that this might even apply to today's lesson. This is funny. You tell me what you think. I wonder how much when we feel an emotion, if we were to take it out and examine it, what is that love teaching about us? Maybe we can't actually confess the love to that person, but in examining that love, we get to learn so much more about ourselves. It becomes a mirror. And here's the beautiful thing that I found, especially when we're in love with someone who doesn't love us back, because I have experienced that for 8.5 years. There's something about it where we get to come to know ourselves. And if we are brave enough to do so, allow that love that we feel so strongly for someone else to actually be a reason in and of itself why we love who we are, why we honor who we are, why we cherish ourselves as, man, look how well I can love, even if I can't express it or even if it's not being returned. So I think that that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, man, isn't that so important for us to examine in the moments when we do feel stuck, like we can't communicate it, or it's not returned, or it's misunderstood, whatever the emotion is. That's such an important opportunity, whether it's a positive or negative emotion, to do what she says. She says, when using this idea of any perceived cause, don't assume that one emotion outweighs the other. So all emotions should be taken and analyzed. Every single upset, every single love, every single emotion, every thought. There is no discrimination between anything we think or feel that cannot be and should not be taken out and examined for the cause of understanding that we're not that. Because, for a large extent, first we have to learn to disassociate ourself from what we're feeling and recognize that that feeling in and of itself does not control me. That is not ever going to overpower me. That's not ever going to give me license and excuse to treat someone without the regard and care and concern and even acting in my own ideals. I must stay value driven, value aligned, no matter what. There is never an excuse. But until we learn to take that thought, take that emotion, pull it out and examine it and ask why and be curious and allow our feelings for other people to serve as a mirror, what does this have to teach me? Man, it's going to do so much harm and so much damage to ourselves and also to those around us. So, as a reminder, today's lesson from A Course in Miracles, I am never upset for the reason I think I am. Y'all, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm live on a couple different places, but Luke, thank you so much for joining. Zanat, thank you for coming on. Asfith, Mitch, thank you. Andrew, Robbie, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I will be going live again later tonight. And I hope this lesson, I'm actually going to be setting it as an alarm on my phone to go off this afternoon, just to remind me I'm never upset for the reason I think. And in that moment, there's a freedom that comes. That emotion cannot control us. That upset is usually never what we actually think we're